Let's start out this morning and first this evening and say welcome. Appreciate you all coming here to the backgrounding meeting. We'd like to start out this evening with John Dhuvetter, who is the Area Livestock Extension Specialist up in Minot. And John, if you'll share with us, he's going to be speaking on cattle feeding budgets and opportunities this year in 2014.
Pretty much an excellent year for the cattlemen, the cow-calfmen. Got through winter and spring calving without too many major problems. An excellent summer for grazing. Feed supplies are high and the market prices are phenomenal. So could be one of the best ever years for some of our cow-calf producers. We're going to talk a little bit on some budgets and maybe what it looks like as far as the alternative of feeding your calves versus selling them. And there's a few key points that kind of come out this year. Probably the number one thing is these prices are prices we've never seen before. If you're going to be buying calves, they're going to be expensive to fill the pens. If you've got calves on the cow, they're going to be real tempting to sell them. Awful good cattle prices on the slide. I've indicated what some people have actually sold calves, contracted for, will be delivering in the next 3 or 4 weeks. 550-pound calves at $2.75 is a lot of money to buy a calf, and it's awful good money to sell a calf at. Don't look that the supply and demand situation is changing drastically, so it might be a fairly stable, or we can kind of think the fundamentals are in place, that we're not looking for any wild moves, although today we had a little bit of a limit down, but as the market rallies up, there's going to be some up and down days. Generally, the outlook is pretty positive. Tried to get some prices for planning and doing some budgets, and when we pull up our sale barn reports, we notice that there's not many calves moving yet. It's kind of hard to get a real good read on what they're worth. This was a Napoleon market report from early in the month, and it does show some pretty extremely good prices. I was working on this presentation yesterday, and I pulled up the futures market, and we had a pretty good day. They were up strong. We have cattle trading out into the future months in which we'll sell backgrounded calves at feeder weights of in the 230s. Then today she took a little bit of a dive, and so we're not quite as strong. So we got expensive calves. That's one of the themes. The other theme is we got a lot of feed around, and we got a lot of cheap feed compared to what we've seen over the past several years. Got a large corn crop, declining prices, transportation issues, wide basis in some places, and so pretty cheap corn. We've also got some other opportunity feeds that have shown up, such as high vomitoxin or scabby wheat, winter wheat. Some of that is at a big discount in the market and will be available as a feed grain. Probably have some frosted corn that won't make good test weight merchandisable corn, but will have good salvage feed value. And our hay stocks are been fairly good in the state. They're really high, and the demand to suck this hay out to other places in the country is kind of diminished as they got rains and the drought area shrunk. Just put a slide up of what our local grain elevators got posted for prices. We can see on there that corn is only in the little over $2 bushel range, quite a bit of a contrast to a year or two ago. Hay prices. Everybody kind of wants to know what hay prices are. There's not a real good market to gauge those by. But one of the things that we do have is a monthly survey done by our North Dakota Ag Statistics Service. They reported alfalfa hay for the month of September was at $84 a ton. And other hay, which is just a conglomerate of your grass hays, your mixed hays, and so forth, was down to $59 a ton. Those are off from the month before. They're off substantially from last year. There's lots of hay around. It's not moving very fast. Third theme is with the feeds that we have potential to put some cheap gain on cattle, fairly cheap gain, a lot cheaper than we have been able to. And if we get animals that perform well, feed prices, we can have cost of gains probably down there 60, 70, 80 cents, depending on what kind of animal performance and ration we're putting in front of them. Our interest rates remain fairly low, and one of the things to always watch for as far as looking at things and opportunities is typically the fall season. Feeder heifer calves are discounted severely to steers. We've seen in the last couple of years they've been $20, $15 behind their steer mates, and sometimes it gives you an opportunity to buy something a little cheaper to put in the pens, and gives you another option for a market, as some of them might have enough quality and could be packaged and bred and marketed as replacement cattle, in which the market is very strong for. When you do budgets, which I'm going to share a few with you, you have to make a lot of assumptions, and you have to put some prices and costs in that budget to come up with a bottom line. I picked some fairly simple feeds. I put some prices on them. I use corn at $2.50 a bushel. It's a little stronger than what the market is out west, but by the time you haul, transport, store, a little shrinkage and loss, that might be an appropriate number. Same for hay. I put $70 a ton on for 12% crude protein, 56 TDN hay. You can probably buy it cheaper than that, but by the time you grind or put it in a ration, you're going to have that much into it. I priced corn silage at $27 a ton. An ionophore Canadian protein supplement at $600, and then distillers grades at $120, and that includes a little extra for, some transportation from the plant. I took those feed prices and then I plugged in 4 budgets I want to share with you tonight. One was a budget that just takes some heifer calves. We have an opportunity to make a good buy on some or keep our own and winter them at a gain that's probably suitable for making replacement breeding quality or size heifers. By turnout time, which is 1.5 pounds a day gain, and would feed some heifers from 500 to 750 pounds. Then I had 3 steer rations, one that steers that are fairly typical of 550 pounds, and a fairly typical background and gain of 2.5, feeding them up to 800 pounds. Some lighter weight steers that we probably didn't push as hard, only a 2 pound a day gain, taking them up to 750. And then if we got some of these big, strapping, good growthy calves that we don't want to stall out, keep moving them along, a 3 pound a day gain on some 650 weights, taking up to 900. So I'll go through those 4 budgets with you, and that's give you an indication of maybe what's out there as far as cost of gain and margins that might be in these expensive calves with this cheap feed. And of course, there's a lot of assumptions in these budgets. Be aware that you can run these on a spreadsheet called CalfWeb. It's on the internet, or you can adjust these things accordingly as your local situation and prices dictate. First budget was the heifer budget. We're going to put 250 pounds on these heifers, but we're going to do it over most of the winter, 167 days of feeding. I gave them a fairly simple ration of grass, hay, a little corn, a little supplement, ½ pound a day. Cost of feeds with those prices I showed you before was 84 cents a day. Taking that feed cost and that ration and plugging it into the CalfWeb budgeting spreadsheet, we bought these heifers or priced them in at $265. It might be a touch high, might be a little low, depending on the quality of the situation in the day. Sale weight was 750, gain was 1.5. The ration cost on an as-fed basis is $88 a ton. Plugged in a 40-cent yardage cost in these budgets, and that yardage has to cover the wear and tear on your equipment, facilities, the upkeep, electricity, the fuel, and the labor to run this feeding operation and enterprise on a per head per day basis. I kept death loss at a fairly conservative rate of 1.5%. If they're home-raised calves, that's usually pretty achievable. If you're buying high-stressed sale barn calves, that's probably only half of what it should be, if maybe even should be stronger than that. I kept the vet medicine kind of as if they were your own calves. If we're doing some calves that have these stress issues and we're giving some antibiotics on arrival, that's certainly going to be higher. I did not plug any price protection such as LRP premiums or put option costs into these budgets, but you can figure those in off the bottom line if you'd like. This heifer, being wintered at 1.5 pounds a day, ends up having a feeding cost of feed alone of 55 cents a pound. When you add that 40-cent a day yardage, it goes to 81 cents. We end up with a break even of $2.15. I took a guess that used the futures market, a little basis for heifers, and decided my best guess the selling price might be $2.20. So when we put that in there, there's not a lot of profit to be made at those inputs into this budget. Leaves a profit of $35 a head, plus you've made a yardage cost of $66 a head, and part of that is labor. So however you want to partition those out, there's certainly a positive return, but not a huge one. Then we took the more traditional steer calf, 550 pounds this time of year, fed him for 250 pounds a day gain, but did that a little faster and only took 100 days in the lot. We had to feed him a little better ration. Instead of an 80-some cent a day cost, it's $1.06 because we're feeding some corn silage, some alfalfa grass or mixed hay, some corn grain, a little supplement for protein, vitamins, and minerals. Plugged in pretty much the same variables. The ration cost, because it's a winter ration, it's got silage in on an as-fed basis, is a little cheaper. Daily yardage costs, death loss, health costs, processing costs, were all left in there the same. We end up, because these calves are eating more costly per day, but they're gaining more, the feed cost per pound a day goes down. It's down to 43 cents. We have a cost of feeding of 59 cents for our yardage and feed. And if we put death loss and interest, trucking, and miscellaneous costs in there, it's 88 cents. We have a break even of 220, a little higher than the heifers because we bought them for, I think I put them in at 275. Just go back and look. No, 280. So they were more costly as steer calves, and they had a break even of 220. I put them in at 225, a little basis under the 230 because they're 8 weights, not 7.5 weights. And that left a small margin again in the pure profit line, plus a little labor is being rewarded in the yardage cost. Third was to take a budget of steers that are a little lighter weight, feed them for a 2 pound a day gain, took 13 pounds of hay on average at their average weight of 600 pounds in the feeding period, 3¼ pounds of corn, used a little distiller's grains with that, and that had a daily cost of 83 cents per calf per day over the feeding period of 200 days. Put those lighter weight steers in at $3 because when I looked at that Napoleon sale barn report, it was pretty easy for 4-weight calves to be at that level. That might have been a little conservative even. Looking at the demand for those, it looks like maybe there'll be some wheat pasture, or maybe the lighter calves will have a pretty strong buying interest. They reached 750 pounds after a couple hundred days. We look at those costly lightweight calves. They fed feed cost under 50 cents, feed and yardage under 70 cents, total cost of gain 96 cents, a break even of 218. Those steers in the March board should be priced pretty comparable at 750 pounds to what the feeder index or trade is estimating, so I put them right in at 230, and that left an $82 margin for profit per calf with this alternative. Certainly, if you think you have to pay or realize they're going to be more costly than that, that'll come off that bottom line. And the last budget I'd like to share with you is for some of these bigger, heavier calves. These calves that are 650 pounds that we're going to push a little harder. We have to feed a little harder. Their ration cost per head per day goes up to $1.16. We're feeding them, excuse me, 9 pounds of hay, 15 of silage, 7.5 of corn, grain, some supplement, and some salt. And we're achieving on that ration with these bigger steers 3 pounds per head per day, average daily gain. I priced those bigger steers in at $265 to pick a number, which I think maybe they could be originally bought in this part of the state anyway. Their ration, because it contained a fair amount of silage, was less on an as-fed basis. I bumped the death loss up 0.5% because every time you kind of push cattle a little harder, put a little more feed in the bump, you open up another prospect of a few more health issues and digestive issues, such as bloat. And so that's in a little bit higher. The rest of the costs are left the same. And again, no price protection in here, which is something that you certainly want to consider this year. If we look at the output of that budget, we've got all the costs listed. You know what it costs to buy that calf. That's a $1,722 steer you're buying to feed. You're putting $87 of feed in, $33 worth of yardage. You got a little marketing cost, trucking cost, interest cost, death loss cost. We've got close to $2,000 into that animal after our 83 days of feeding them. Cost of gain, cheap. 80 cents overall, feed cost only 34 cents, feed and yardage 48 cents, a break even of 214. I thought maybe that heavier 9-weight steer going to be a basis back $8-10 where the feeder market is trading, so I priced him as an out price of $220. That generated a little over the cost that we got in them for a profit of $51. Now those do show that cost of gains are low. Expensive calves have potential to make some money. Everybody can work on their own feeds, their own yardage costs, their own buying and selling expectations, and run these budgets to see if it looks like it's going to work for them. But in spite of a little positive on the bottom, all four of these budgets I've shared with you, there's a lot of risk when you get $2,000 a calf tied up in buying the calf and feeding the calf. If you have health issues, non-performance issues, death loss issues, the profits can be eroded away really fast. A 2% net loss on these $1,500 infant calves takes 30 off the top of all the rest of the calves. You know, so not much room to lose them when you're paying that kind of money. Of course, there's also the risk, as we saw today, high markets don't just stay at one level. They go up and down. They can have more potential maybe for some down than up at these high prices. So we want to make sure we protect ourselves and feed the cattle with some kind of forward contracting, price insurance, options, or marketed price decline risk strategy.
John, it seems like those 4-weight calves are priced pretty high, but based on your budgets, they could be priced even a little bit higher. You agree?
I think we hear in the stories that some of the low 4-weights are actually pushing the $4 range. So I think, you know, you'd have a tough time buying some of the high quality lightweight calves at the number maybe I put in.